Welcome to Bet On It, the college edition. I know you guys really loved our NFL show, so we made a college show. I'm Kelly Stewart, your host tonight. We're going to break down this week's college football card, which coincidentally only has one game. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas, Vegas runner, Gianni the Greek, at Greek_Gambler on Twitter. Let's talk this Army-Navy game. As a K-State fan, I'm all of a sudden vested in this game because Navy plays K-State in the upcoming Liberty Bowl a few weeks from now. So maybe I'm going to watch a little bit more Navy. I got a couple of times this year I got to catch this team. But they've been absolutely owned by Army this last few years, Marco.
Yeah, well, before that, they won 14 in a row, Kelly, Navy did, and now they've lost 3 in a row. And what that means, losing 3 in a row, the senior class for this Navy team this year could be the first to lose their entire college career to Army. That doesn't set well with them.
And those kids usually go all 4 years pretty much, right? They're not the kind of leave early and
they're not running to the NFL.
Exactly.
Okay. So you got a big motivational factor. Now, this is one of the biggest rivalries in college football. It gets its own day. Spotlighted, is the only game on the card. They're fun to watch. And I know that we'll have our buddy in later, Ralph Statman, and he's been all over Twitter this week with all kinds of different stats.
I actually have all of his bold notes right here.
Yeah.
It is absolutely incredible. If you head over to wagertalk.com, you can get it for free as well. The numbers here are mind-boggling.
The stuff he gives away for free. Sometimes I just want to slap my face. We got to sell some of this stuff, Ralph. Come on. This is a spot, though. The total. Anybody that's followed this history of this, the total, what is it, 13 in a row to the under? This is going to be this is one of the smallest unders that you have in college history, in the history of this series. But the reason that they always go under, think about it, we know they can score. When you watch Navy, when they're playing all during the year, they're scoring points up and down the field. They play in a conference that doesn't play good defense to start with, and then you got to try to stop a gimmick offense that goes up and down the field. And the teams that are playing them, who are in our conference? Teams like SMU, Memphis, teams that like to go at a fast pace. Well, now you're scoring fast. You're giving the ball right back to Navy, and Navy's, getting those chunk plays, 8, 9, 10-yard runs. Well, now when you play Army-Navy, you've got 2 teams that are going at the same speed. We run the ball, we run the ball, we run the ball, and they know how to defend.
But they practice against it.
They practice against it every day. So now you've got 2 teams going at a slower pace. In those plays that were going for 7, 8, 9 yards against normal opponents, now we're only going for 3 or 4 yards, so you're more methodical going down the field. And the whole time you're doing it, man, that clock's just spinning away and spinning away. So that's why you've got the unders. And finally, Vegas is, they're just tired of getting their lunch handed to them.
Well, you don't say 13 straight unders.
Yeah, you keep dropping it. They may have finally brought it to a point where
no one's rushing to back the over here.
Yeah, nobody is, but it might just get there. I'm not going to go there. Where I'm at, I'm going to look at Navy in this one. I think this year, the problem with Army is off of that great year last year, they've had so many injuries at the quarterback position this year. They've had to use 4 different quarterbacks. Now, people are going to say, what's the big deal about that? All you do is hand the ball off. They run the ball. No. The quarterback might be more important on an option team than on a regular team because it's all about timing and just quick decisions. Does he keep it? Does he give it to the fullback for the dive? Or do they take it outside? And when he takes it outside, does he keep it or does he make the pitch? Those are all timing plays. And when you're shuffling in 4 different quarterbacks, the players, there's no continuity there, and that disrupts a team, and they've had their problems. And don't get excited about the points that they scored the last couple weeks. 2 of those games were against UMass and VMI. Okay?
Good stuff.
That's bad football teams, let me tell you. And then they went in a game that a couple weeks ago, and I know we were all on the same side, I'm pretty sure. Army at Hawaii was the perfect situational play. Hawaii had nothing to play for coming off their biggest game of the year, and then had the Mountain West Conference Championship game on deck and had to prepare for a team that runs the option. No, I don't want any part of Army.
All right, VR, you mentioned to me that you guys already played this game.
Yep.
Talk to the people.
We bet Navy -10, and I think it makes sense. With that said, it's up to 10.5 now, even some 11s out there, and I still wouldn't look to that Army side, even with this low total. You got to remember, with a low total like this will be one of those games where some books won't even let you bet parlays because of the correlation, where if you're going to bet the favorite, you're probably going to bet it with the over. If you're going to bet the dog, you're probably going to bet it with the under. And there's books that won't take it when the total's this low and the point spread's this high. But I personally don't believe that that's necessarily the case all the time. So I don't know why they don't take those bets. But for me, I like this Navy side, and it makes sense. I mean, listen, last year, it was a totally different situation. Navy's been dominating them for over a decade or so, and they had their worst season in a very long time last year. And Army took full advantage. And worse for Navy is they were coming off that 1-point loss the year prior. So they even had that revenge on top and couldn't get it done. But I think this class, this year's team, is very capable of beating Army by 3 touchdowns. I don't think Army's going to do a lot of scoring. So I like the Navy side. I bet it myself as well. And I don't bet all of the plays that these guys move on myself. I get a percentage of it anyway, so I cheer it in. But I don't piggyback everything. But I like this play, and I took a little Navy plus -10 myself.
All right, we have a couple minutes left, so let's touch on these playoff games. Oklahoma, LSU. This total was sky high when it came out, 76.5. Now we're seeing a little bit of under money coming in. Flip side of the spread, LSU -10. Now it's up to 13. I saw 13.5 yesterday, and I was with John Murray from the West Gate, and I said, if it hits 14, I'm betting Oklahoma. I have to.
You almost have to.
I don't know if it will get back up that high, but we're going to see. You guys, either one of you have a big opinion. I know we're early on, so we have to kind of tread lightly.
Yeah, I initially, before I even look at the lines, I'm going to create my own because I don't want to be at all biased by what the odds makers decide the game should be. And it's just human nature. You're going to be biased. So I thought LSU should be around a 9-10 point favorite, right in that double-digit range. But I did not expect that money to come in like that when it came out at 10.
Hard, yes.
You know what I mean? To push it that quickly. And I get it. 12, they're not key numbers. But it definitely took some limit bets early on to get it moving in that direction. And we haven't seen the take back yet. So how far has it got to go before you see any take back? You know, I couldn't lay it now. I mean, the only way I could look now is to play the dog or pass. And I know we're weeks away, so much we're still going to handicap. We're going to scrutinize this game over and over, this point spread over and over. But the first reaction is that it's dog or pass now.
Yeah, do you agree with that statement?
I agree. The public saw Oklahoma struggle with Baylor down to the third-string quarterback and had to go to overtime. So the stock has just fallen so bad.
And look what LSU did.
You have 15 seconds. Any sharp action yet on Clemson, Ohio State?
No, it comes down to who you had as 1 point better. It was some guys thought Ohio State's 1 point better. Others thought Clemson's 1 point better. And it's going to come down to who executes that game plan because the power rating and the point spread is pretty much going to be on point with what anyone has. No one's really going to find much line value based on their power ratings according to that number.
All right. I think the moral of that story was hang tight.
Yeah.
There's lots of time to be able to bet these games. Great stuff, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to look inside the numbers, the biggest line moves from the opening bowl lines.
Get $25 in wager bucks added to your account after your first purchase at wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the Wager Talk and Sports Memo family. Every Monday at wagertalk.com, all plays are just $9. This even includes top-rated 5% plays, which normally sell for $40. There's no better day to get winning picks than $9 Mondays at wagertalk.com and our sister site, sportsmemo.com.
Welcome back to Bet On It. The bowl game lines are set. The opening lines have been out for a few days now. I'm curious to see who the initial money's come in on and why. Circa opened the lines earlier this week. One of the very first ones they put out, Marco, we'll get to that in a second. But this stuff is awesome to be able to have a Vegas book ready to go to market, basically the first in the world.
They are, and let's give Circa credit. And if you're not familiar with where Circa is and what it is, it's Derek Stevens' casino that's going to be built. They're building it now. It opens, I think, December of 2020.
Yes.
And the renderings for the sports book is just going to be.
You don't even need to go to the sports book. Have you seen the pool? They're going to have giant screens up the pool to watch all the games.
I know where you're going to be. Yeah, but I want to give them credit. And most people, and there's a lot of books out here, and there's one that's buying everything up across the strip and going to have a monopoly. That they frown upon sharp players. Circa's doing it right. They're first to market. They're going to make mistakes. They don't care. They're getting a lot of publicity being first to market with their lines, and they're letting the sharps come in. They're begging the sharps to come in and bet. Well, yes, there's limits.
They're doing some great stuff, and it's similar to what we talk about on the NFL show with the look-ahead lines from the Westgate, and I think it's great because they're allowing the market to dictate where their number is going to go, and that's how you get the sharpest number.
Right, and so the sharps are coming in and picking off the bad numbers, telling them where it should be, and then the rest of the books offshore and in town can wait, to see that initial wave of action, and then you've got where the market should start at. And credit to Circa, but it is a good tool to see this year now remember, some of these numbers were just wrong, okay? They were just wrong, and the sharps told them right away. So just because we're going to talk about a game that maybe went from 6 to 4 doesn't mean that the 4 is the sharp side. It means 6 was definitely the wrong number.
Okay, that's fair. VR can touch on those a little bit too. Let's start off with Buffalo. They opened a 4-point favorite, now up to 6.5 versus Charlotte. These are all very early on bowl games, and I think something to take into consideration is how much motivation for some of these lesser teams may be there versus some of the bigger name teams may not be there. VR, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this Buffalo line move. Is that one of your groups?
No. And right now, Marco's absolutely right that you got to be real cautious looking at these line moves and drawing any conclusions of what is the sharp side. Because of the fact most of these bets being placed early on, as soon as these lines come out, there's almost zero handicapping involved. It's strictly based on what he just touched on, that the number's off based on our power ratings. We have it, this line should be 7. You brought it out at 3.5, so we're going to bet it all the way up to -6, maybe even up to -7, and then we'll handicap the game from 7 on.
And decide if you want to come back
and take it from there.
Okay.
Exactly. And you notice that most of these moves are on or towards the key numbers. 3, 7s. That's what you're seeing. It's going from pick 'em to 3 to 3.5.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Every single one of
almost
these.
Everyone's around those key numbers. And that's how you make money long term, by betting good numbers and letting the results take care of themselves. So, I mean, this was a case where, I thought Buffalo, they should be a bigger favorite. But now at 6.5, it's a totally different handicap.
All right, Mark.
Schedule of strength in this one. Buffalo is a MAC team, but they're one of the better MAC teams, and they do play some defense a little bit there.
They were able to whoop up on Temple as double-digit underdogs. And I think people are going to remember that going into the bowl game. It's who did you beat? What level of talent have you played?
And to add one thing to what Ace said about the public has not even touched these numbers.
No chance. Why are you going to tie up your bankroll for 3 weeks away?
Most people don't have the money to do that, the average Joes, and you're going to see that fluctuation on game day. And if the sharps got the right numbers, got ahead of the market, when the public gets involved the day of the game or maybe the day before and the line fluctuates, that's where you'll see a lot of buybacks.
All right, Mark, I'm going to stick with you. Kent State, Utah State. Utah State opened an 8.5-point favorite, now down to that key number of 7. Yeah,
this is one of those ones where you talk about motivation, and we're seeing the line drop to the dog. I agree with this line move, and this is a part where Utah State coming in, if you remember in the preseason, Utah State was a sexy pick for a lot of people to win the Mountain West Conference because of quarterback Love. He was, projected as, possibly a first-round draft choice in the NFL. And this was a team that, although they played poorly at the beginning of the season, they had a murderous schedule at the beginning of the season on the road at Wake Forest to open the season. Then they played San Diego State on the road. Then they had LSU. This team got beat up at the beginning of the year, but then they rallied at the end of the season where they had the game, the Boise State game. If they win that game, they win the division, and they didn't. So I think they're the team that Are we really excited about being here? And for Kent State, they won their final 3 games to get here. You know they're happy to get to the bowl. When was the last time Kent State got to a bowl game?
I was just thinking that it's been a long while.
And if you look at this team and say, oh, well, they were 3-6 and they had to win their last 3 to become 6-6, just go back and look. And I'm going to talk more about this game later in the show. Look at their early season schedule. We'll talk about that later.
All right, VR, Central Michigan versus San Diego State. San Diego State opened a 2-point favorite, now up to 3.5.
Perfect example of a move initiated by so-called readers. What happens is, people don't realize is a lot of these betting syndicates, the job of a reader is simply to read the market and determine which way it's going to go. And if you can do that, that's an asset, because as long as you could beat that closing line, long term, you're going to make money. And the reader's job is not only to find out information that later will come out, maybe injuries, things like that, that's going to sway the line, or weather, but also get ahead of where the money's going to go. And in this is a prime case of being certain that when the public gets involved on that day, that money will be on San Diego State. You got a San Diego State team that's 9-3. I don't think they've lost a single game by more than 6 points, playing against a Central Michigan team that's 8-5, and they're only
up until last
only
week.
got to more or less win
team.
a MAC team.
Right.
They more or less have to win the game. That's all San Diego State more or less has to do. So that's a simple case of getting out ahead of that, and the books love it, because now instead of the bettors coming in that day and getting them at -2, they got to lay San Diego State -3.5, and rest assured they're going to do it. And when that line gets at 4, decisions will be made on whether we unload on Central Michigan now or whether we're comfortable with that -2. That's exactly what's going to happen with that game.
I love it. All right, SMU versus Florida Atlantic. SMU opened a 5.5-point favorite, now down to -3. Is Lane Kiffin coaching in that bowl game?
No.
I didn't think so.
And I think what this is, I think they over-adjusted this because of Lane Kiffin leaving and being a distraction and everything. And I also think maybe they forgot where this bowl game is. This is a home game for Florida.
Yeah.
This is their stadium, okay? And the money's come in on that one. The Sharps grabbed the 5.5 was due. And as you said, where did they take it to?
Yeah, exactly.
They
They bet it down to the 3, and then they're going to let the public decide it from there.
Take it from there.
This is purely getting the right side of the 3.
All right, Florida International versus Arkansas State. Arkansas State opened a pick'em and got bet all the way up to 3 so far.
Yeah, I mean, you have a Florida International team that's 500, hasn't won a single road game this entire year. That's the side the market's going to move to. That's the side you're seeing get bet up. I'm interested to see when this hits 3, or if it gets through 3, what happens then. But not surprised of this move, and it's warranted because on paper, it shouldn't be a pick'em when you just look at the records alone.
All right, Las Vegas Bowl, Washington versus Boise State. Washington State opened a 6.5-point favorite, now down to 3.5.
Against a 12-1 team, where's that line going to go? Give me 3
this
guesses.
is a situation. This is a tough handicap for this game. One, it's the Las Vegas Bowl. It's out at Sam Boyd Stadium. It'll be the last one there. They'll be moving to the new Raider Stadium. Future. This bowl game is going to get to be prestigious, getting to play in that new stadium moving forward. But for this year, it's been one of those issues that the team that comes from the Pac-12, how can they be happy about being in this bowl game? For Boise State, this is the goal. You win your conference, this is where you end up. I don't know if that's really a reward or not, but that's where you end up. Boise State travels well to Vegas. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to come to Vegas?
Very true. All right, last one. About 15 seconds here. VR, UAB versus App State. App State opened -15, now 16.5.
They're the sexy pick. I mean, that App State team, not only have they been winning, they've been covering. They haven't lost a single road game. They're 12-1. I mean, that's going to be the sexy pick on that day.
All right, time for us to step out for a quick break. But when we come back, it's time to talk about how to handicap college bowl games. That's some TNA coming right up with Mr. Ralph Michaels.
I'm Gianni the Greek Corrales. There's a lot going on right now. Over the next week, we have college football, NFL, college basketball, NBA, NHL, and UFC 245. I've already fired 2 UFC bets, including a 5% play, and released 2 NFL for Sunday. So I'm going to go ahead and give a week special for only $79. That's all sports, All 7 days, only $79. We have a lot going on over these next 7 days, so jump on board.
Want up-to-the-minute scores and odds direct from Las Vegas? Then check out our Wager Talk odds page. You'll get all the latest lines along with moves as they happen from all the biggest books in Las Vegas, including Westgate Superbook, Circa, Golden Nugget, Wynn, Stations, CG, and South Point, just to name a few. Best of all, it's absolutely free.
Welcome back. And since there's only one college game this week, this is a great time to get everybody ready to learn how to handicap the bowls, talk about some of the handicapping styles of our experts on the panel. I'm excited because bowl games really are a different animal, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. You kind of joked in the last segment, oh, well, this team's 12-1 and covered 9 out of 12 games, and so who's going to rush to back them here? Answers, everyone. So some things like get a little bit deeper here. VR, I'll start with you. So how do you handicap bowl games differently than you do during the regular season?
I think the first thing everyone talks about, but you got to remember, a lot of things we're going to discuss, the question is it baked into the cake? You know, is it factored into the number? And if it is, it's great for discussion, it's awesome for sports radio, but you're not going to gain any value and beat the number doing that. With that said, some of the key things that differ with the bowl games is we touched on the Washington-Boise State, the motivation of one team over the other. You know, you come into the season with certain goals. Did you reach those goals? Did you not reach those goals? Or are you a bowl win away from, you know, reaching that goal? For some teams, getting to a bowl game is huge, and they're just happy now to be there, and they're going for the celebration, enjoying that city and all that comes with getting to a bowl game. Others are there to take care of business, while others are pissed they're even having to play that game. You know what I mean? So you got to factor that motivation in. And again, it's great to discuss, and it's one of the things that I don't think is really factored, that is baked that much into the cake, because it's so difficult to quantify. Ask a bookmaker what is revenge worth.
You can't quantify
exactly.
motivation. You can't quantify
exactly.
But there is situations which I'm sure Marco will get into.
Yes, that's why I do think you can take advantage of it, because it's not in that number, even though everyone knows it. We all know it's about motivation, but can you see what it's worth?
It's an intangible. It's not something that you can put a hardcore
Correct.
number
If we lose a quarterback or a wide receiver or an O-lineman,
we say this is what he's worth.
Exactly, but you cannot quantify, hey, this team's lost 6 in a row to this team. Is the line even high enough, you know? Marco, same basically question for you. What are you doing differently for bowl games versus what you do during the regular season?
Motivation's the key word for everything, but I want to point out that since we've gone to this playoff format, it's kind of degraded some of the other bowl games, because it's not, you know, because it's all about the 4 teams, you know, and then the rest of us. Now, there's still prestigious bowls. I mean, teams, you know, growing up, I can remember sitting on the floor in front of the TV New Year's Day, eating pork and sauerkraut and watching the Rose Bowl with my dad, you know? I mean, the granddaddy, you know, that was the bowl game. And I always wanted to go to the Rose Bowl. You know, a couple of years ago, Brian Leonard and myself, you know, went to it, saw a great game. That was the Penn State USC game, tremendous game. And there's just that stuff. But now we don't have that the same anymore if you're not one of the 4 teams. And then factor in, because of that, and these other bowl games don't mean as much, we've saw a precedent start the last few years where players that are going to go to the NFL decide, you know what, this game doesn't mean anything. I'm not going to risk injury and hurt my draft stock. I'm going to sit out.
And they don't always announce that up until maybe a couple of days before.
You know, yes.
There's a lot of factors that go into that as well. I mean,
they're going to talk with they're not supposed to have agents yet, okay?
They do.
Okay.
I hate to break it to anybody, but they do.
Okay. They're going to talk to people that are projecting the draft and see where they're projected, and then they're going to make a decision. And the minute that they do make that decision that they're sitting out, right after they make that decision, they have an agent.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing they find one that quick.
I didn't have an agent until I needed to have an agent. And then I had about 18 emailing me and texting me all the time. So then you got to make a quick decision.
That's a problem. And that's something that we talked about in the last segment about people getting in front of numbers. they're getting in front of the key numbers, like you said, but then there's going to be times that they're going to have to double back.
Exactly.
Because a key player is going to sit.
And it might be a key player, maybe a few key players. Unfortunately,
they
when
go
you
out
have a month
partying
off,
that week, they miss curfew.
They don't make curfew. I mean, I remember the Fiesta Bowl with K-State. Guys, they were saying up until game time they were going to play, then boom, there they are playing in the game, but was their head fully in it? No, because they were concerned they were going to get in trouble. Or if they were already in trouble and the coaches decided, hey, last minute, you're not going to get a play. Or, again, crazy things happen.
And how's that affect the rest of the team, too?
Exactly.
I swear, we're going to go way back, but do you remember when Lou Holtz was at Arkansas? And, he had that great program there, and then he went to Minnesota and then on to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I swear, every year when he took Arkansas to a bowl game, he suspended somebody, whether they deserved it or not, just to get the attention of the entire team.
Yeah.
And there's
we're here to take care of business.
It happens all the time. These are 20-year-old kids. They're the end of the season. Some of them are going to Hawaii. Some of them are going to the Bahamas. They're going to have a good time. I'm sorry, it's going to happen. And that's something you got to deal with in the bowls.
And just know that when you're betting it early.
Yeah, conference championship games. We know the winner's going to be happy to go where they went because that was the goal, win your conference championship. But how about if you got that close?
Like a Baylor, for example?
Baylor, every time that they should have been in a spot where they can't bounce back, somehow Coach Rule's got them fired up and they played an even better game the next one. But most teams, that's not the case.
But I do believe that in that scenario, they will get fired up because of who their opponent is. So there's always something to think about there. I got to save some time for Ralph, but great stuff as usual, guys. Let's bring in our resident stat guy, Mr. Ralph Michaels, to see which bowl goodies he has for us. All right, guys, it's time for my favorite portion of the show. That's right, TNA with Mr. Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV. If you want to tell him how much you love his trends and angles, because I know that I sure do. We're doing a couple extra questions this week, Phil, because just Army, Navy, Ralph. So I wanted to ask you this question for Ask the Experts. At Murphy Bruno asks, when handicapping, do you consider a team with a high positive turnover ratio to be lucky and therefore discount their prior results? Or is there a point where you consider it a skill and reward them for having a positive turnover ratio?
The answer is yes.
To both?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And it's simple. Back to the Phil Steele days, we always did an article called turnover equals turnaround.
Okay.
And normally teams that have a poor turnover ratio regress back to a better record, and teams that have a very positive turnover ratio regress down to the median. But we found that in college football, there are teams that work on turning the ball over. We talked about Baylor this year. Baylor's DC, his entire theory was, if we can get this many turnovers and if we can have this many big plays, we will have success and win 10 games. And it came true.
Yeah.
We've seen Ohio State, a team that doesn't turn the ball over and whose defense works on turnovers. So there are a few elite teams that it is a positive. For the majority of college football, it is basically I expect them to regress back, and you can't count on those results moving forward.
Okay, great answer. Give me a couple of systems that you have. I'm excited for bowl season. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
Well, okay, let's just say this. Bowls, last 3 years. Dogs, 56.2%.
Okay.
If you could take a 50% angle and look at it, that's just money to be made. So, am I telling you to take dogs straight out? No. How about this?
That's dogs against the spread, correct?
Dogs against the spread. Okay. Dogs of 7 or more. Last 3 years, 17 and 19. Boo. Dogs of 1 to 6.5, 45 and 27, 63%. So we made that dogs even better. And then dogs of 4.5, just to give you an idea, Kelly, because I know you love playing money lines. Dogs of 4.5 or less. 27 and 19 against the spread, but 24 and 25 straight up.
Wow.
So there's something when you have those small dogs, don't be afraid to split your bet between against the spread and money line. One thing you have to remember is there's a long period of time before your final game and the bowls. There's 15 bowl practices. There's a lot you go through. Teams off 3 straight up losses in a row. And now you're a dog or a small favorite. You've gone 30-17 against the spread, 64%. So don't discount a team that's off 3 straight losses and you think, oh, there's no way they can turn their season around. Those teams that have lost each of their last 3 games and now they're a dog or a favorite up to 7, 64% against the spread, that's Tulane.
Just Tulane, huh?
That's it.
All right.
Teams off 3 ATS losses. You're playing poorly down the stretch. Can you turn it around? Absolutely. You've gone 40-26, 60% against the spread. That's BYU and Iowa State. So just because you finished with poor ATS losses, that doesn't translate into your bowls.
I really enjoy the Iowa State one because I do think it means more to them than it will to Notre Dame.
Oh, motivation's everything. Absolutely.
Okay.
You absolutely have to handicap motivation. And my favorite, 6-6 teams. Well, for the rest of your life, in every media guide, your team's either going to be a winning team or a losing team. There's no more motivation than that. If you just blindly bet every 6-6 team since 2000, you have hit 60% against the spread.
Wow.
Blindly, it doesn't matter.
In their bowl game. Just
in their bowl game.
Blindly bet them.
There's no bigger motivation than finishing your career with a winning record or a losing record going in that media guide. If you have a 6-6 team that won their last game as a dog, you have hit 70% against the spread. Going back to 2000, I'm going back 20 years.
Wow.
Those teams, Kent State and Boston College.
Ooh, Kent State.
I don't need to mention the 6-win teams because there's a lot of them. And if you are a 6-6 team playing an opponent with 9 or more wins, I mean, how excited can that team be that has 9 or 10 wins playing a 6-6 bowl team?
And also certain teams have more of a legacy to their name, et cetera. Okay.
71% against the spread, 22-9. The 6-win team is 22-9 against the spread against a team that's won 9 or more games.
Who's that?
Last year there was one. It was only Virginia Tech against Cincy they covered. This year, Miami of Florida, Washington State, and Boston College.
And those are play-ons.
Those are 71% play-on teams.
Wow.
So 6-6 motivator, the biggest thing in the bowls that you can
That's
have.
crazy, too, because I do think you're right. You're going to see people rush to back the other side. I hope this segment has got you ready to handicap bowl games. If you'd rather have us do the handicapping for you, up next, that's right, Marco and VR, they're going to bring you their barking dogs and best bets from the bowl games before Christmas.
The College Bowl schedule is set and you won't want to miss a single winner. The best way to do that is to buy a College Bowl package. The College Bowl package sells for $2.99, but order now and save 50% and get the complete bowl package from your favorite Wager Talk or Sports Memo capper for just $1.49. This gets you every single College Bowl release from your favorite capper, including all 5% plays. These 5% plays sell for $40 by themselves. Hurry, as this is a limited time offer.
Last year, I was the #2 college basketball handicapper in net profit at Wager Talk. This year, I'm off and running again, hitting 67% of our college basketball plays to start the season. My college basketball season package sells for $9.95, but this week only, use coupon code MARCO400 and get $400 off when you enter the coupon at checkout. You'll get every basketball selection I make, including 5% plays that sell for $40 by themselves. Get everything right through the Final Four in college basketball, just $5.95. Go to wagertalk.com right now and get this package. My season package offer ends Monday at midnight.
Welcome back to Bet On It. You know what time of the show it is. That's right. It's time for Barking Dogs. Now, this is a little different than what we normally do because we're not looking at the entire bowl slate. We're just looking at the bowl games prior to Christmas Day. Obviously, there's no more Christmas Day bowl games. So we will do another show next week, which will unfortunately probably be our last college show. But, Marco, I'm going to start with you. Who is your barking dog for these early bowl games?
Barking dog, we touched upon it when we were looking at the lines and where we saw some movement. And this is one of them. I agree with the movement. And we're going to look at Utah State and Kent State. This line's at 7.5 with Kent State. We go to Utah State. Coming into the season, the expectations for this team was high.
Yeah.
They were the sexy pick from a lot of people to have a shot to win the Mountain West Conference. And they played well. At the end of the season, they had a tough schedule at the beginning of the year. They opened up on the road to Wake Forest. You know, granted, Wake Forest didn't have a great year this year, but still, that's a Power 5 conference for your opening game. and then later, a few weeks later, go to LSU, and well, we know how that turns out, going to LSU and just get beat up. But at the end of the season, they played Boise State, and they had an opportunity. If they won the Boise State game, they would have been the team going to the Mountain West Conference Championship game. And so this has to be deemed as a disappointment for where they ended up. Now, Kent State, on the other hand, they're a team that's 6-6.
I mean, I will agree with you. It's really hard to get fired up for teams named Kent State.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is. Well, Kent State's going to be excited to be to a bowl. When's the last time they were in a bowl game? But what I'm looking at with Kent State, they were a 6-6 team. They won their final 3 games to get into the bowl. But look,
they were 8-4 against the spread too this year.
Did you see what their schedule was at the beginning of the year?
No, I'm not a fan of Kent State. I don't really follow them.
Okay.
Okay, we've talked about this before that I don't really follow the MAC. I'm a Power 5 follower, so like you'll see glimpses of MAC schools get thrown in there, but that's only because I usually get some good information.
First of all, somebody should punch the AD in the face who made this schedule, okay? All right.
Marco.
5 of their first 7 games were on the road this year. That in itself deserves you to get slapped.
And when you have to
He's
start off
going out there to play.
Okay, well, now, after you slap him, you might want to kick him somewhere in the southern region. Here's the road games that they had. At Arizona State.
Auburn.
At Auburn. At Wisconsin. For God's sake, what are you doing? They're lucky that they didn't have the whole team injured after that.
He's cashing paychecks is what he's doing.
No, he's like, that's how you guys are going to get better.
Yeah.
I'm putting you up against the best in the world.
Well,
that's how you're going to improve.
I think it's more so now they have more money for better facilities.
There you go. All right. Unless they go out and blow it on cowboy hats or something. Inside joke, people.
The rodeo's in town, so Marco's got funny jokes, but, you know.
I like the rodeo. That's Marco's favorite time of the year. 11 days on the strip playing cards with all those drunk cowboys. And
How happy are you?
I'm very happy.
I'm very happy too. My liver's not that happy. But
by the way, did you see the picture I tweeted out for you that MGM had this giant tub of White Claw? I said, they're expecting Kelly. You never showed up at MGM. They were disappointed. Back to this game, my best bet is Kent State. My barking dog is Kent State plus the points.
VR, talk to me about your barking dog.
Florida International, +3. Now it's down to 2.5. That's all sharp money there. They're just a better team. And the problem with Arkansas State is they just can't stop anyone, as their record looks attractive. But if you look a lot closer, down the stretch, a lot of those wins were one-possession games. Even ones where they lost the turnover battle, and that's just not supposed to happen. That's a win by being lucky. And if you look at their rankings defensively, they are 100th plus, like on that side of the worst in all of college football. I think Florida International will have no problem putting up points against this team. And I think the wrong team's actually favored.
I was just getting ready to say that. I'm looking at some of the power ratings that Ralph shares with me, and he does have FIU.
They're better. They're the better team getting points. So I'm not surprised to see the line, that key 3, get bought up. But again, I think even at a pick 'em, that's the side I would look to.
Okay, the dogs have been walked, so you know what that means. It's time to show you guys have all been waiting for. It's time to take a look at the best bets for college football. I'm cheating here. I know we were supposed to pick games prior to December 24th, but as I mentioned, I don't follow any of these teams. Hopefully I get some good info. It's still early on. As if VR hasn't already given me a laundry list of bowl games to bet that I wasn't going to. Plus Marco's Kent State now. I got the money line already circled. I'm searching for a 7 and it's gone. In all seriousness, the only thing I've already bet was Clemson.
I love that you did that. I'm sorry. When you said that, I was so happy because if you like it, fire away. Because between now and that game, you're going to hear so many things that you may go one way or the other, but if you see something and you like it and you're like that, don't let anything change your opinion. Follow your instinct. You've been doing this for so long. Something jumped out at you. And right or wrong, follow that conviction. I always say that when you've done it as long as we have, you got to trust that instinct.
Sometimes you think long, you think wrong.
Yes, that's a very good quote. We're going to use that. That's our new bet on it slogan. Think long, think wrong. It is very true. So I did go ahead and bet Clemson. There was a plus 230 at Circa. Marco and I talked about this, though. If that isn't available to you, so there's a lot of 2-to-1s, a good suggestion would be to find the lowest money line versus Ohio State and then roll it over on the money line against whoever they're playing in the next round. If they do get to the next round, obviously I'm banking on them winning the national championship, so it's a little bit dicey here. But I wanted to give that to you guys before things started to change. Obviously, Clemson's already been bet up a little bit in this game, so the money line is going to follow. So if you agree with me, bet Clemson now, and hopefully we catch the national championship.
Clemson right now minus 125 on the money line against Ohio State, and then it's Clemson, LSU is most likely the final. It's going to be somewhere in that same territory.
Well,
It'll depend on how good LSU looks
versus Oklahoma,
and how much of a battle Clemson has with Ohio State.
Absolutely, and I'm banking on being about a 3-point favorite against LSU. I know a lot of people are going to think that's crazy, but that's what I've got on my end. And now, granted, again, if they are in a dogfight for 4 quarters with Ohio State, things may change if LSU rolls over Oklahoma, but kind of keep an eye out for those ones. VR, tell me what your best bet is for bowl games prior to Christmas.
One that we touched on earlier, I'm going to go ahead and take Central Michigan plus the points and go against that move, that San Diego State move that I think is so phony. Again, the San Diego State team defensively has played great ball. You can't run against this team. At least that's what it appears on paper. But they don't score either. I mean, you look at this total, it's at 40. And I think Central Michigan is one of those ugly teams, but has the capability of putting some points on the board. And they can throw the football. It's not a team that just needs to run. So I think Central Michigan is live in this game. I think it's going to be an extremely low-scoring game. And with San Diego State, I mean, down the stretches where they did not look very good at all. Even those games they won, they were so closely contested. Again, I think this move's fake. And at +4, I'll go ahead and take Central Michigan as my best bet.
All right, Marco, best bet time.
I'm going to give you one that
the Camellia Bowl. I have these bowl games I can't even pronounce. The Sarsaparilla Bowl.
I know, I gotta love it.
Hey, we're going to the Boca Raton Bowl.
Even better.
Okay. And it is the home field for Florida Atlantic. And the big news with Florida Atlantic after they just smacked the snot out of UAB in the conference championship game. Well, in the press conference, Lane Kiffin got the questions. He's heading to Mississippi, took the job there. Going to be in the same division as LSU and Alabama.
Go Lane.
I don't know if that's a smart move.
Gutsy. I like it.
I'm sure there's some dollar signs associated with that. He'll be
There
right.
definitely is. And he's not going to be coaching in this game. So a lot of people are going to say, all right, what's going to happen to Florida Atlantic? Well, I'm going to look at the total in this game. The defensive coordinator, Glenn Spencer, was named the interim coach in this one. So his attention, is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. But he's got to split his duties now, and he's the head coach. He's going to let the offensive coordinators handle the offense. That's what they do. They've run it all year. You're not going to go in and change something that's worked all year. You're going to run the same system. We saw when Scott Frost left Central Florida, there was no drop-off at Central Florida. He stayed for the bowl game, the difference with them, and I'll give him credit for that. But then you didn't see any drop-off the year before. They stayed with the same system, same players, everything works. They're going to be facing an SMU team that's played a much tougher schedule. You can't even begin to compare these two conferences of the teams that were in SMU's conference. SMU played TCU out of conference. You face Temple in conference. You face Houston in conference. Memphis, Navy, and Tulane's another up-tempo team. I just see the points to continue, and they put up a big number here of 72. You're talking Big 12 type number, and a lot of people are going to say that's too high. I don't think so. I think both teams are going to go up and down the football field. I'm going over 72 as my best bet.
All right, I like it. We have some extra time this week due to the lack of games, so we're going to take a little Ask the Experts mailbag questions. I love these because people, I think it's a good chance for us to educate them, and I really enjoy it. Okay, VR, this is a good question for you. At Missu Golf asks, how many points do you need to consider a middle play? So if I know from 3 and 3.5 people try to side games,
right.
things of that nature. But for you personally, when you go to middle a game, what are you looking for?
Yeah, these days it's very difficult to middle games. A decade ago, you could actually make a little longer than a decade ago, you could make a decent living if you have enough outs that you could just middle away and grind out a profit. And if you have a decent enough bankroll, a good profit. But now with the consolidation of sports books, with only a handful of corporations owning everything, and very few willing to put out their own number. They all just copy it. You're not going to get too many differences that are big enough to take advantage of. So the way you middle games these days is by being lucky of getting out ahead of the market.
So Thanksgiving, for example, with the Bears.
Right, is by getting out ahead. And I think it depends around what numbers, around, again, I'll take -2.5 and +3.5 all day. That's just a 1 point difference, but I'm not going to, -7.5 and +8.5. I'm not going to middle that. There, I'm going to need at least a 2.5 point cushion. So again, it depends on the number. That's key. Around 3 or 7, you don't need more than a point for it to be plus EV. If you could get the half point side of each the right way, you can make money long term. It just takes a long time to do it. But otherwise, I need 2.5 points to consider it.
All right, Marco, at Jeff Schwartz. I can't read people's Twitter handles. It's terrible. Do you ever research and bet on an NFL game early in the week because you anticipate the line moving late in the week? It seems like you lose line value always waiting until Sunday.
Most cases you do. Last week, I got in front of a number where I thought I wanted to jump on it right away. I had New Orleans. We'll talk about that game in the NFL show. But that line was come out at 3, and the minute I got a chance to get to 2.5, I jumped on the 2.5, but the money kept pouring in. So, yes, in general, you're going to get the better of it, but then there's always...
You're going to guess wrong on occasion.
Yeah, you're going to guess wrong.
Well, I guessed wrong with the Rams a couple of weeks ago, and I said, hey, listen, I think this is going to move this way.
It happens.
And it moved the other way.
But again, and I can't, because that's such a great question, but don't wait till the last day to place all your bets. Because again, and there is no argument to this, 0, none. So don't even try to debate this fact. The closing line is the most accurate. It's as close as you're going to get. Even if the final score ends far away, that was still as accurate as you're going to get because it's been scrutinized the most. There's been bet into the most. All the information is out there. There's no argument there compared to when the number comes out early. So again, if you're waiting till the end, it's so hard to beat the NFL market already. But if you're waiting to take the bad numbers, it's almost impossible.
All right, great stuff from you guys. I wish we had time for a couple more of these questions. There's some really good ones. Maybe we'll get to them on the NFL show. We are going to step out for a quick break. But when we return, it's our final thoughts on early college football bowl action. You guys aren't going to want to miss it. Lots of great information, considering I can't even name half of these bowl games, nor have I watched any of these teams play for the entire season because they're in the MAC and Mountain West Conference.
I can't either.
Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Lots of action this week. No, not so much, but we'll give you guys a recap anyway because we want you guys to get ahead of some of these bowl games. This weekend, Navy, Army, and we're all in consensus here with Navy minus 10.5. VR mentioned that saw some sharp money on it early on, played it at 10. Marco agrees, so I bet it live during the show. Now at least we got something to cheer for on Saturday. VR, do you see this one getting bet up much higher than this?
I think it could only go that way.
Okay.
But I think because of the low total, it won't go too much higher, because if it does, I think you'll see the dog money come into just because of the low total and people not expecting a lot of points.
Okay.
Do you see them coming in with the total?
On that total, to go over it only, not under, not now.
I mean, points. Who wants to really bet under 40 in a college game?
No.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, because so many in a row have hit that people are just going to do that by muscle
memory. And if
memory.
the weather's really, really bad.
True. All right, Barking Dogs. We have some good ones coming up. Marco likes the Golden Flashes plus 7.5.
You looked that up.
No, I knew that one, and now I'm struggling with FIU.
I don't know. I have no clue what FIU is.
The Cougars?
There you go.
I don't know.
Call them the Cougars.
That's so funny. We're joking about between the break. How many of these schools, do I actually know that much stuff about? Just because I don't follow them, and he was proud of me for knowing Akron, the Zips as well. Let's touch on these best bets. I got an email coming in. My computer's dinging on me. Marco likes the SMU Florida Atlantic over 72, cheering for lots of offense in that one. VR's going against the move here. As he mentioned, San Diego State. He's going to take Central Michigan plus 3.5. Up until last week, this was one of the better ATS teams in the country. I don't hate this move. I think Central Michigan gets up big for that opponent. And as I touched on with you guys, I know this is an early bowl game, but I wanted you guys to get the information out ahead of time. I'm betting Clemson to win the national championship, a.k.a. betting Clemson money line 2 times, unless you can get a better number.
They're the best team. They're the best team.
I do agree. I think that they're the best team, and I think that's the only thing that I felt comfortable with as of right now. Early on, saying, hey, I can find some value here. And I think that, as you touched on in our last segment, I think that is important. You have to take so many things into account, as we talked in during the show, whether it's injuries, guys going to the NFL, coaches leaving, et cetera, et cetera. There's no reason to rush and bet some of these games. That one I felt the need that I needed to go ahead and get ahead of the market.
I just want to see Ed Orgeron on the national stage, accepting the national job.
Oh my gosh, you guys. That is Marcos, whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight, the college edition of Bet On It. We love doing the show each and every week. If you are not a subscriber to our Wager Talk YouTube channel, do it now. Hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. Until next week, let's bet on it.